Technological growth and economic development are the unquestionable driving forces in all areas of our modern times. Food is no exception. In fact, food is no longer just food. It is now industrialized commodities, manufactured, branded, labeled, packaged, and sold. But for those of us with at least half a conscience, inevitably, one day, we're confronted by the impact all this growth has on the environment. The heavy dependence on fossil fuels, the contamination of air, water, and food with chemicals, the destruction of ecosystems. All this to provide supposedly convenient and cheap food. And that's a good thing, isn't it? It becomes hard to decide. The earth is here for you to exploit.
No, it's here for you to protect, to use it sustainably.
No, it's all about growth, profit,
it's about
jobs,
community,
money,
well-being,
machinery.
health.
People need food. I'm Siloe Oliveira, artist, animator, and weekend gardener, and I believe that it is possible to become less dependent on industrial agribusiness. Follow me as I start transforming my family's home in the outskirts of Baltimore, Maryland, into a more productive suburban homestead. I believe one of the main reasons to grow your own food in a more sustainable way is an educational one. It is only through growing it yourself that you fully understand its true value. It is the best way to feel grounded. If you haven't done it before, you might be thinking it's a laborious, back-breaking endeavor. And well, sometimes it is. But it doesn't have to be all the time. I'm here to show you that you too can become a part of the solution to a more sustainable society. Through this experiment, we can learn together. In the last episode, I have shown you how I start seedlings for the garden. It is now mid-spring, and as some of the early blooming flowers start to fade and the temperature rises, I know it is time to prepare the soil for planting. In previous years, I have been gardening in the front and side of our property, because those are the spots with the most sun. However, I want to start growing more of my food, one garden bed at a time. So I want to do a test garden bed in the backyard this time. As you can see, most of my backyard is covered by the shade of these large trees, which unfortunately makes vegetable gardening rather impractical. But I'm looking at the end of the property where there's a nice sunny patch. Hopefully I can plant more vegetables there. Since this spot is relatively far from my house, I wanted to mostly take care of itself. I just want to plant it and then only come back to harvest. I also want to keep watering to a minimum. Therefore, instead of a normal garden bed, I want to build a Hugelkultur inspired bed. In theory, it holds moisture longer because of all the branches and organic material that's put underneath it. It is based on principles of permaculture, a system of design created by Bill Mollison in Australia that minimizes effort and maximizes output by using nature to your advantage instead of battling it. In this case, by using Hugelkultur inspired beds, I will be using dead branches and garden debris as a positive resource to hold moisture. What conventional gardeners see as trash, a liability, I see as a resource, an asset. But before I can work with nature, I will have to battle it a bit here. This spot has its fair share of brambles and thorns, and changing that is not going to be easy. To start, use head shears and a garden hoe to cut and pull as much of the vines as you can. If you work slowly and remove a bit every day, it's amazing how much you can do. Make sure to know if any of the vines you're taking out is poison ivy. If you have poison ivy in your property, do consult a professional, since dealing with this plant can be dangerous. It is a good idea to use gloves to protect your hands and possibly eye protection. I know I'm not using gloves here, but then again, I also have cut my fingers a few times gardening. As you start getting to thicker stems, you might need a branch pruner to remove the vines little by little. This work is certainly backbreaking, but in the bright side, you only need to do this once, since after you establish your garden bed, heavy physical labor will be minimum. This Hugelkultur inspired bed theoretically will decrease the need for watering and fertilizer in the future. Removing the dead tree in this spot without power tools will be very hard. In case you also have a small tree stump that you want to remove by yourself, get ready for a little hard labor. I got my father to help me with this step. We decided to slowly dig around the tree, cutting roots as we went along, until we were able to remove the trunk completely. If you encounter large roots on the way, you might have to use an axe. This whole operation took us about 3 hours, but in the end it was worth it. After you have cleared the area, you can start building the bed itself. A true Hugelkultur bed doesn't require you to dig, since you build it up from the ground in layers, putting first a weed-suppressing layer of cardboard, then larger decomposing logs, twigs, and finally soil enriched with manure and compost, covering everything with straw. This bed can be as high as 6 feet. Thus, it increases the surface planting area and creates microclimates, and after a season or two, it becomes completely water independent, as the logs and twigs break down inside of it, acting as a sponge. Although you don't have to dig, you do need a lot of twigs, logs, and soil, something I don't have. That is why I'm building a smaller, sunk Hugelkultur bed. So first, I dig 1.5 feet down all the area of the bed. Then I fill the area with a few rotting logs and bigger twigs. I top that layer with fine twigs, leaves, and straw that I've roughly shred with head shears. Finally, I pull the soil back on top so that I end up with a bed that is about 1.5 feet tall. Now it is ready to be fertilized and planted. This process certainly is backbreaking, but remember, you only have to do this once, and certainly once you see the growth this method supports and start enjoying the harvest it provides, you'll then easily forget the hardship. Join me next time as I fertilize this garden bed, preparing it for planting, and don't forget to subscribe to Suburban Homestead.